Shit,
And
yeah.
I said, Jaja, is a man say you really start evaluate like, yo, cause me must have old people say, yo, you still at Jamaica, why you still at there? I said, nah, man, I love my country, the country love me and the people, the man. Government, everybody, you feel like we're on the same page, isn't it? So when that happened, it leave me for 6, me never forget. And then through what time and how it has progressed and what me I expect, me not get, or me think me not see and the help me not get from certain people and you know see me as a judge.
Right. So it's like from government, is it from the government
Yeah,
perspective?
yeah, and the government alone really can't do nothing big about this, you know what I'm saying? And them are the only person who can go in and say, yo, this need to fix.
Yeah.
You understand?
And how active are they in the case?
It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
because I mean, what the communication is, because they are a private company. SSL is a private company, and they can't really go into SSL matters other than to regulate them, deregulate them.
Jamaica, but they didn't get the technical terms now. Okay. Yeah, technically, but people can feel because there's been conversations. Mm. You understand? But nothing has materialized out of the conversation. You feel like they might do enough for trying to solve things? After that. If personally, if they were doing enough, it will reach a certain level already. It's been 2 years and we can't say, we can't come to you now and say, all right, you reach us, all right, we'll look up or we'll look down. It's not there no way. This is like almost at a stalemate, isn't it?
So when you say like Miss Panton, she's charged, she's about to serve jail time, yeah. You see that somebody is being held responsible. Do you think that is the right person being held responsible?
Say, I tell you, all this money, Miss Nana, one person about it. Mm. One somebody can move around and nobody else know about it. In a big institution where it's supposed to be really regulated, right?
That's Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, and who is Jamaican. And he's just now finding out, or I shouldn't say just now, but he is learning as the days go by about the Jamaica in which he lives. He's learning. And I'm wondering if he's learning fast enough. But give him his credit. He's learning that the Jamaica that he thought he was living in or that he lives in, well, the one that he thought he was living in, yes, because I think he now has a distinct view of Jamaica, that he is not high on the food chain. Usain Bolt is now learning, even though he is deemed and touted and is factually the fastest man on planet Earth, and reigns from Jamaica, hails from Jamaica, right? And that brought pride and joy to Jamaicans and the Jamaican elites, but particularly the underprivileged, the marginalized people in Jamaica. And the ruling elites in Jamaica, they used that opportunity. They weaponized Usain Bolt against the masses of working class people in Jamaica. Because if they can get them on a high and let them think that Jamaica is nice, you see, a nice man, and the more they can steal away from you, then they can continue to steal, right? Now, this afternoon, we are going to look at Usain Bolt, the class problem in Jamaica, classism that we often refer to as classism. And there is a rabid type of classism in Jamaica, whether we like it or not. And it doesn't only have to do with color, but it also has to do with economic privilege and also your educational background. Very, very important that you understand that. What school you hailed from, what family you came from, the type of language you speak. So even though you're hearing people at the University of the West Indies, Professor Devonish and the Carolyn Coopers of the world, suggesting that they are going to get your human rights because you have to speak your patois, you have to speak it, because that's in an important language in the world and in Jamaica particularly. That's not going to do anything. Because at the end of the day, you have to sound a certain way. You have to comport because Jamaican culture is performative. From the top to the bottom, everything there is performative. It is not real. Nothing about that country, from the sand, sea, and beaches. What do you call it? Sand, sea, and whatever they call it. Nothing, I think it's sex, right? Nothing is real in Jamaica. And I think that Usain Bolt is finding that even the friendships that are there are not real. Even some of the friends that you have that you call Jamaicans, they are not real friends. They pretend to be real friends, and they pretend to want to call you and to pretend as if they're nice and everything is nice and dandy. But you have to look beyond the veneer that many people are showing, the smiles and the niceties done. Look beneath that. Because when things come, when the challenges of life begin to assail, right, they are not going to be found. In fact, they're busy gossiping. They are going to be busy gossiping about what is happening to you. Because that is how we have been acculturized, right? That is the Jamaica that you live in, right? And Usain Bolt is now finding out that he is at the bottom of the food chain, even though he is a wealthy man, right? But he is at the bottom, as far as the Jamaican ruling elites are concerned, he is at the bottom of the social hierarchy in Jamaica. Because he did not hail from Kingston, didn't come from a certain address in Kingston, didn't come from a certain family. So who is this man to be pushing up and to moving up in terms of his economic standard and standing? They are people in the Jamaican elites, that in the ruling class circles, who are definitely going to be jealous of him. And I have a number of things against Usain Bolt, but let's give him his credit. Let us start with the point of Usain Bolt. First of all, give Usain Bolt the credit. He came from rural Jamaica, and he has a natural, or had then, a natural talent to run. Somebody recognized his coach, recognized his ability to run, and contacted somebody in Kingston, or somebody saw his talent and was able to bring it to the attention of the then Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson. And somehow they were able to get him to Kingston and to train him, and he was able to rise to the occasion. But remember now that even before he came into the spotlight internationally, even though Jamaicans had known him for a long time and people from the Caribbean islands had really been known, but he was known worldwide before he went to the Olympics in 2008. I know he was at the Olympics, I think it was 2004 or 5, can't remember if it was that time, but still he had not really progressed on the world stage. He didn't do very well in that particular Olympics of 2004. But the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, Usain Bolt shone, and he stunned the world. The world was entertained by our Jamaican fellow, Usain Bolt, which is a household name, right? He's a brand. He has made, just like Trump, just like Donald Trump, he has made for himself a brand. And maybe he needs to go and read Donald Trump's The Art of the Deal and learn how to play with these people, because these people are sharks. Even the American ruling class also are sharks. And you have to be able to swim in the sea, in the ocean with them, and do what sharks do. So go and study the whole matter of sharks and, their characteristics, and see how you are going to, be able to navigate your way through the ocean, Usain Bolt, with the other sharks that you have among the Jamaican elites, among the Jamaican ruling class. Okay, but the thing that we just viewed on the fix, he was on the fix, as Usain Bolt, and he was speaking about the fact that he has not gotten back his money. And the hostess, one of the hostesses, was asking him, was making the point, well, it's not perhaps the entire thing it cannot fall at the feet of the Jamaican government, because the Jamaican government cannot walk into a private company and regulate them, right? But if the government formulates laws that are important in terms of regulating them and they stick by them, they enforce these laws, then yes, they can. Right? The problem we're having today is that the government is often in bed with these people, right? And the government is in, in cahoots with what they're doing. And when we were going through the pandemic, we heard the same thing. When, Facebook and YouTube and all of these social media began to censor people, one of the arguments out there was, well, these are private companies and the government cannot really hold them to account. Is that true? But we're now learning that it was the government who pressured them, who pressured the Zuckerbergs, what his name? Yeah, the Zuckerbergs and all of these wealthy and social media titans, right? That it was the government of the United States, right? The facts are there, the evidence is there, that pressured them and told them if they don't do it, then consequences will follow. Right? We're not here suggesting that Andrew Holness called SSL and told them to do whatever they did. We're not here suggesting that on this channel. What we're suggesting, however, is that oftentimes, unbeknownst to us and meetings held in secret, we do not know what the conspiracies are. And for those of you who don't believe in conspiracies, conspiracies do exist. It's just a secret plot that you're not aware of. Some of you think that conspiracies are some of this awkward nonsense that people talk about, but there are conspiracies. The Sanhedrin Council back in Christ's times, they conspired against killing Christ, which they did eventually. It was a conspiracy. And they worked with a member of Christ's disciple, Judas. They worked within, right? Where they co-opted one of Christ's disciples to betray him. And we know the story. So let's not really here fool ourselves that there are no conspiracies. And we can talk about lots of conspiracies within our times, right? That's not my purpose here this afternoon. Okay? But Usain Bolt, we're hearing in the Gleaner that, well, let me continue with Usain Bolt, that Usain Bolt is this, and he seems to be vivacious. He's very talented. So he won the Beijing Olympics there 100, and he created this world record, and a record that has not yet been beaten, right? And he continued afterwards to gain and to, obtain successive feats. There's a lot of noise in the background. It's hardly able to concentrate here right now. Right, successive feats on the world stage, right? So he was able to have gained successive feats afterwards, after the Beijing Olympics in 2008, and, became world renowned. The man retired and was, enjoying the fruit of his labor. But one of the things about life, when we get money very quickly, and I'm not saying that he got it easily, because, I wouldn't say that, because he had to train. These athletes have to train. Sometimes you really wonder if they're not slaves. They really have to train a lot, and they have to go through a lot of psychological challenges, right? They do. And let's not be here, naive about what they have got to do. But what I understand, and what Usain Bolt needs to understand, is that when you gain money quickly, that it can also go quickly. So yes, you have the races, and if you win it, you get thousands of dollars, right? And he won a lot of races, so he got thousands of dollars, right? But the same way in which you got the money, in terms of getting it quickly, is the same way that it can also evaporate rapidly, which that's what is happening. Remember also that we must understand that this sports industry is controlled, and it's controlled by the same ruling elites, right? It's controlled by the same ruling elites, and they can engineer your downfall if they want to, and many times they do. Many times they do, because they're not there because, giving you money because they love you. They're just there to entertain the public and to distract them, for them not to read, for them not to follow what the elites are doing. If you can have them in perpetual entertainment, then you control them. And the world's population is controlled to a large extent. The world's population is controlled to a large extent and largely by entertainment, music, and sports. Right? The circus and dread of Rome that Rome gave to its people also. And you are distracted. You are perpetually entertained by these things. And you don't understand who are behind the scenes, who control sports and music. And if Usain Bolt was doing a lot more reading, a lot more praying, right? He would have acquired much more wisdom and understanding and knowledge to deal with situations like these. I think, he was at some meeting because, Usain Bolt's, mother is, I don't know if she's still a Seventh-day Adventist, but he grew up in the church. Usain Bolt grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist church, and he was invited to a program that they had there. It was a camping program that they had somewhere there in Western Jamaica. Was it 2 years or 3 years ago? And Usain, when it was asked him, when is he coming back to church, when he's going to go back to church, Usain Bolt says, something like, whenever he's accomplished his goal or his goals. And we can't treat God like that. You can't just treat God like, you get him or you do things when you want to do it. Some of us are lucky and we can, and we do get away with it. Not that we can, but we do get away, God and his mercy, right? But it's not all of us get away with that you come back to God when you so desire, whenever you want to, because you might not get that opportunity too. And that is the whole the fact of the matter. So when he went there and he was suggesting that after he's accomplished his goal, and I want to believe, I'm not 100% clear in my mind, that he might have uttered those words before what took place happened to him with his losing his money. And it's not that God is doing that. It's that he's allowing it so that Usain Bolt can get to his senses and understand that all that glitters is not gold. All that glitters in this world, in the sinful, evil, wicked world, is not gold. And I think that is what Usain Bolt needs to come to an awareness of, that fact that not all that glitters is gold, right? And he thinks he had or still has a golden spoon in his mouth because he has a great amount of money that the typical Jamaicans don't have access to. Give him his credit. He also has invested in a lot in himself, in his family, and to some extent, country. I'm not sure how much he has invested in Jamaica. I'm not sure. Has Usain Bolt even built a block at his school? What's the name of his past high school? William Knibb, right? He went to William Knibb Memorial High School, and I think that's in Trelawney. I don't know if Usain Bolt even built a library or an auditorium or whatever. Have Usain Bolt invested in a library? Because not everything you're going to invest in has to be something that is going to be tax, written off, or a tax write-off, or, something the world has to see. Some of the things that you need to do also, and I'm sure you have, need to be private between you and God. Right? Some of us like to boast and to tell people what everything is happening and who we're giving and who we're not giving to, and think God is impressed by or with our giving. Because it's a motive that counts to God, not your giving that's going to save you. It's a motive behind your giving. Right? Some of the world's most evil people, including the devil, give. But what motive prompts the devil and evil people to give? That is what God looks at, and that's why he's not impressed. Right? We have to understand that. So Usain Bolt has really gathered intelligent people around him smart people around him. I think one of his friends that he said he went to school with, it continues to be his advisor or his, his investment advisor, right? And what is his back? And that's very good. And that's very good. I'm happy. And that person went back to school and I'm sure obtained the requisite skills and knowledge needed to help Usain Bolt in his adventures, in his business adventures and, activities. So we have to give him credit for that. However, Usain Bolt, I'm going to have to knock you. I'm going to have to knock you. There was a time in Italy, you were in Italy, and you were interviewed by some international journalists. They could have been Italians, I don't know, or Americans, I can't remember. But they asked you, what were you reading? What was the latest book that you were reading? And you said you don't read. Usain Bolt told them, and he was still young, but not young. He was old enough not to speak like that, right? We can't say we're young forever. When you're in your 20s, you need to have some level of, you need to be grounded, right? Stop talking about you because, thing and the years go by so quickly and you're 50. And if in those years you're not properly grounded, chances are some people do, but more than likely you might not be grounded for the other years to come. And you have to build knowledge and wisdom and understanding, right? It has to be built. It doesn't happen just overnight or just through your raw experience. Yes, experience teaches wisdom, but if you do not read, because you can't gain all the experience from just one source, you have to look at other people's experiences also. And then you can pool everything together. And Usain Bolt was very, very proud to say that he doesn't read. He plays video games and do other nonsensical stuff. And I don't think to this day that Usain Bolt reads. I hope he does. I hope he does. But Usain Bolt, you cannot just rely on somebody else's wisdom and knowledge and understanding. You can, take advantage of it, but you cannot just rely solely on that. What about you? And most importantly, you have to rely on God. Because as I'm telling you, that even some of your advisors, and I'm not just suggesting here, Usain Bolt, that any of your advisors betrayed you, far from my thoughts. I don't even know them. I don't even know your advisors. But I'm suggesting to you, you can't trust anyone in this world, in this wicked world we're living in now. And we're living in the time, in the days of Noah and Lot. As the Bible clearly says, this is the time of the end. And man's thinking, his thought process is evil continually. That is what happened in the days of Noah. Nothing of the imagination was not evil. Everything was evil. There was nothing in his mind, and that is what he meditated upon continually. So don't really think that people who surround you and who are very close to you cannot betray you, Usain Bolt. They can and might have. It is for you to seek the wisdom of God, for him to show you who around your circle, who might be very close to you, just like Christ. Judas was the treasurer. Do you know that? That Judas was the treasurer of the disciples. He was the one who kept the money. And he knew every action that Christ would take. And that's why he was able to tell them where he was and betrayed him with a kiss. Judas betrayed his Lord and Master with a kiss. Well, Jamaicans might not kiss you, but they might laugh with you and dance with you and eat with you. And you think that they're your friends when they are not. Right? So you have to be careful, Mr. Bolt, about that. You've got to understand that not everybody around you is your friend. And lots of you love to have your parties and you dance and you sing and you whatever, and you think that that's life. The fewer people you have in your circle is the best, and they must be properly selected And the older you get, and you say, but you are now growing up, you're in your 30s now, the fewer people you need to have around you. If you find many people around you, it's because you don't have a brain. Because the majority of them do not have your back. Right? Do not have your back. You are just exposing yourselves to them, and they are going to weaponize anything that you have exposed to them against you, especially when you are at your most vulnerable moment in life. And that is why it's important. I'm not saying don't have any friends. Friends are important, but good friends. If you're just going to have friends because you just want to go out there and have fun and somebody calls you up and you chat nonsense and you think that that is friendship, that's not friendship. Friendship is someone who has your back at all times and is able to go through thick and thin with you. Read the story if you want to know about good friendship between David and Jonathan. That was the standard, or is still remains the standard of good friendship. But that those friendships are dying out, are no longer in our world because people are hooked together based on material and class interests. That is what really binds people together, which is just like the sinking sand, right? You cannot build your confidence, your trust, your faith in that sort of friendship. You need a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Do you have such friendship, Usain Bolt? Stop now with all this partying and get your life together, right? Because this is just the beginning of sorrows. If you do not take stock, you might find yourself missing thousands or millions, I should say, of dollars and other investment properties. So you've got to take stock and stop playing around and think that the people, they're laughing with you and, oh, they're Jamaicans. He's suggesting that one of the reasons why he didn't leave Jamaica was because Jamaica was a country that he thought people loved him because they embraced you because you're the fastest man in the world. People cannot love you, Mr. Bold, because you're the fastest man in the world, right? The Sun Chin, who sings well, if people are loving you because you sing well, or you're the fastest man in the world, or you speak well, or you are Harvard educated, they don't love you, right? That is love that is built on the sand, on the sinking sand. That is love. That's not love that is going to be for the hard times. And that is not love that perhaps will not betray. Right? People should love you because of you, who you are. Even if you have lost everything. If you lose everything tomorrow, you're saying, but and we hope you don't. If you lose everything tomorrow and the people leave, because you're no longer considered to be the fastest man in the world. You don't have a house. You can't put on parties anymore. They didn't love you. They were just there for you to enjoy the good old days. They were bystanders. And that is what I would think, Usain Bolt, that you have in your lives. Right? Usain Bolt, you have to go back to church. You've got to give your life to God. Give your life to God so that you can have that wisdom and knowledge and understanding. He has blessed you with a talent that very few, if any, people have in this world. He has given you that talent. So you have to give that portion of it to him. And since you have gathered lots of money, then invest it in God's work. Right? Invest it in God's work so that you will not lay up treasures on earth where you have the moths and all of these thieves will steal what you have, because that is what has begun. The process of stealing has begun. Now, the thing about people in general, Jamaicans specifically, is that we do not learn our lessons well. In 1990s, when we had the FinSac, and people still challenge me, you didn't know about FinSac? Of course I know about FinSac, right? We saw where the government in cahoots with the private sector, literally stole the wealth and the investment properties and everything of the Jamaican middle class, of the majority of the then Jamaican middle class. We should have awoken up. 2008, the financial meltdown. Obama, the change guy, the guy who was going to bring change to Washington. And people are asking me, Andrew, don't you remember what happened in 2008 and how the economy was, was collapsing, was going under the toilet? And who do you think created that situation? The same American ruling elites, the ruling class. So that you now can be brainwashed into believing that their remedy, their solution to that collapse has to be what Barack Hussein Obama went there to do. But what did Barack Hussein Obama go there to do? He actually gave all of Americans wealth, the people, the victims of that wealth, the victims who lost their wealth, their properties, their monies, he gave it and more to the same people who caused the financial collapse in the first place. No, but you said, oh, but we need those guys because they're the ones who are going to give us jobs. And where are the jobs? Where are the jobs that were lost? And these were quality jobs. And a lot of them were quality jobs. They were just ordinary jobs, some little temporary jobs that you're doing. Right? These were good jobs. The same thing happened in Jamaica in the 1990s. The properties and the wealth that, were lost during that time, these were quality jobs that people were giving to Jamaican, to fellow Jamaicans. These entrepreneurs were giving to Jamaicans, which they have never replaced. The government of the day, even though they're telling you that Jamaica is this wonderful country, and I'm going to show you that we are in a recession. So they are telling you that we are great and our macroeconomic fundamentals are excellent, and that Jamaica is being used as a poster child for lowering its debt. And this morning I saw, what's his name? Damien King in the Jamaican Leader. I think he has an article, he has lost his mind. He has lost his mind. And one of the things about it, when you read a lie over and over again, even someone who is supposed to be an intelligent man like Damien King, because he's intelligent in terms of, book knowledge. Damien King is an intelligent man in terms of book knowledge. In terms of the ability to think and to think critically, he doesn't have it. But was a professor at the University of the West Indies. And I'm sure he was revered by his students. I'm sure that some of his colleagues, even now, revere him. That's why you see him high up on the economic chain and ladder in Jamaica. Right? But, the Prime Minister is saying that he's going to have to pivot to, just paying down debt to, growing the economy and producing. And Damon King this morning is challenging him that, production doesn't mean what he means in terms of putting people to work. It means paying down your debt. He's saying that at the last paragraph, he's saying essentially that what you need to do is what the IMF is telling you to do. Pay down your debt. Because that is what is going to make the economy grow. And that is not true. That is not true. And when we talk about debt, as I have suggested on this channel, and I'm not against paying down your debt, I'm saying my question is, who is racking up the debt? And if these people are racking up the debt, they should be the ones who are responsible, and they are the Jamaican ruling class. Now, if the Jamaican ruling class can play that game with Jamaicans, because they're stealing your money too. Is that only Usain Bolt's money that has been stolen? Your money, the ordinary citizens, your money has also more than millions. Billions have been stolen from you. But you're not aware of it. So when you are thinking it's only Usain Bolt and they have to defend Bolt, they have to defend him. They have to defend Usain Bolt. Because by the fastest man in the world, have to defend him. But what about you? What about you, the ordinary Jamaican citizen, who can barely buy a pound of saltfish? You barely can afford a pound of saltfish. And the government has stolen money from you of which you are not aware. because you think that you're paying down a debt that you have racked up when you haven't racked up the debt. Because you can barely, you barely have a hospital there that functions, a public hospital that functions. You barely have schools that are modern with modern facilities. You look at York Castle, you look at St. Hilda's, you look at most of the schools, Westwoods, and they're just still the same. The same iron metal chairs that they used from the 1950s are the same chairs, the same furniture that are there in the classrooms. We don't even have the initiative, the creativity to find people in the community to build and to give them jobs. I was hearing from a friend of mine, well, not a friend of mine, my own cousin, Patrice, and hey, Patrice, how are you doing? But she was telling me she went to Westwood, and she was telling me that at Westwood, where they wear the jippy jappa, what they call it, jippy jappa hat, whatever you call it, that hat that they wear, right? I think they call it the jippy jappa. But they're saying that, she was saying that she was walking with one of her best friends and who was visiting from the States, and noted that one of the girls from Westwood was walking on the streets of Brownstown, and she didn't have her hat on, and in their time, which I also was aware of, that they could not walk on the streets without their hat. Everywhere the Westwood girls were, they had to have their hat, right? And she asked her, why don't you have your hat on? And she says, because the school doesn't have enough hats. Because there's nobody to make the hats. In the 21st century, where there's a lot of poverty in Jamaica, that you don't have a cottage industry in which people can build furniture and make hats for school or for schools. I mean, I think that Jamaica is gone. But we have lots of other money to do other things, to buy cars and to do all nonsense that is there. And people are riding in their cars and having their cell phones brandishing as if they're wealthy and they're important when they're just mere slaves. Right? And I have news for you. An economic disaster, an economic depression is on its way that is going to make 1929 crash look like a joke. It's going to make the 1929 crash look like a joke. Right? It's going to make it look like a recession. Right? Because this is going to be worldwide. Not only in the United States, it's going to be worldwide. And it's going to affect you. You're going to be poor. And you've got to prepare yourselves for these things. Lots of funds that you have in the banks are just going to evaporate. Banks are going to close with your money inside. So what are you going to do? Who are you going to find? And you see Usain Bolt now, who is the fastest man in the world, but he's finding out now that he is just another guy, another Jamaican marginalized man on the streets. That's what he's finding out. Because you're not important. And if you're a doctor, it's the same thing. If you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you're a lawyer, it's the same. These guys see you as just on the lower chain, on the lower end of the food chain. They don't see you as important, right? And that is why we have to look at injustice. When it happens to someone or anyone in the world, is a form of injustice to everyone. That is what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. I'm just paraphrasing him. Of course, those were not his original words, as you should know. But the Gleaner this morning is reporting, and one of the stories that came, I think it was written 2 or 3 days ago. The title is, Bolt's lawyer calls out victim blaming, says government failed to protect SSL Limited. Now, the entire reading was suggesting here that Usain Bolt is being a victim. He's playing the victim card. And they're saying that some of his money that before it was even invested into SSL was already defrauded. There was already fraud before all the money was invested. And the lawyer is saying no, or his investor is saying no. His investment advisor is saying no, that's not true. That they have the evidence that all of the sums of money were actually invested into SSL. And there were not like different chunks of money and stuff like that. Everything was invested at the same time, and they got the receipt. He said he has that evidence. And what he's suggesting also is that the government employed services, they retained the services of the FBI and another company, their secret service or whatever they call them from Britain. And they are not privy to the investigations done. They have not been given any report, right, in terms of what happened and what the findings are. They're suggesting, Usain Bolt's side is suggesting that these findings, these discoveries have been given to some media houses. So I'm sure like the Cliff Hughes and maybe some other people there have access to that report. And you know, when they do that, they can redact information. That's what they do. And critical aspect of the information is going to be hidden from the public's purview. Right? That is how they run the show. So whatever the FBI came up with, or the people from Britain, is not going to be fully disclosed to Jamaicans. That was the essence of this article. That was the essence of the article that was written in the Jamaica Gleaner. I'm not sure if the Jamaica Gleaner doesn't have access to the findings from the FBI. I don't know. You can call them and ask them. I don't know. But this is how the show is run. And then the Gleaner, they will present articles upon articles pretending that, and it's all distractions, right? All distraction, all smoke screen, right? So this is just a very serious thing in terms of the class problems in Jamaica. The class problem that we're seeing in Jamaica, that you are not viewed as important in the society. Americans are finding that out too. They're seeing that they're not important. They're now realizing that even Trump, who says that he's for the working class, that he just wants to put the money into the hands of the billionaires. And they're cutting programs right, left, and center in America. And people are going to be impoverished. People overnight are going to be on the streets. And if they dare protest, they can be sent to Guantanamo Bay. If they are considered, because they're going to say that you are a threat to national security and order. If you dare protest, that is what is going to happen. That is what is going to happen. I was reading in Publico last night, actually, a story in which, people from Venezuela were saying that their family members are at Guantanamo Bay. And they have been described as terrorists, right? And they said that according to them, I'm not suggesting that they're speaking the truth, but we have to listen to all sides of the story. That these guys don't have any criminal record on their background, and they have been trying, the family members have been trying to get in touch with the United States Immigration Office, and they refuse to speak with them and to listen to their perspective. And what they're showing images of these men going to Guantanamo Bay or at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, but they're not declaring their names, neither are they declaring the details which support the fact that they are terrorists and they're criminals. Because if the state says that you're a criminal, you are a criminal, and you don't need any lawyer rather, or any court case to say otherwise. Because the dragon-like, beast-like image is now, we're seeing that in almost all states, including the United States of America, where the government is the one that dictates and tells you what you need to believe and what you need to think. Right? That is what is happening. And we're seeing that happening. And I'm happy that Usain Bolt is waking up. Sad that it took him, that he had to lose, how many, $7 million US dollars now, that's a lot of money, right? To wake up, I think it's more, to wake up to such a situation. But that is the real problem, that's the reality, right? You have to wake up, and sometimes some drastic things have to happen to us for us to wake up, for God to get our attention. And Usain Bolt's attention right now, well, I don't think it's fully yet garnered, but I hope God has some of his attention, that he can see what is happening in the land of his birth, the land that he claims he loves. And look here, I am not telling you not to love your country. You should love your country, right? You should love your country. But let me say something here. Loving your country doesn't mean that you're going to turn a blind eye and you're not going to call out sin by its rightful name. You're going to call out sin by its rightful name. In fact, these are the people who love the country. Those who are willing to say, no, we are right, we're heading on the wrong path, we're heading in the wrong direction. These are the patriotic citizens, not the ones who are dancing and, hey, Bossa, you love your Bob Marley, and, you're blind fully. This blind patriotism, right? Watch out and watch for these people who are behaving like that. And you have a lot of them who do. From the University of the West Indies, all of them, man. Happy to be Jamaican, proud of my yard. But a nice place to live is sweet and dung. The only problem is dollars not run. And nobody is questioning why the dollars are not running. Just as what a sweet, you just dance and you run and you drink your rum and you eat your rum cake and you feel good. Eat your dumpling and you have a dumpling head. Nothing in the brain to think about what is happening because the dumplings have blocked your thoughts of thinking. You can't eat the dumplings like myself and think at the same time. Right? You desire that your goal is not to think. It's too hard to think. And I want to have friends. I can't be like you, Andrew, where you're thinking and you don't have lots of people around you having fun. Can be happy, have fun. Be happy, enjoy myself. Right? Even when they're beating you, they're lashing you. Have to enjoy yourselves. What a world. But we do wish Usain Bolt well, and we hope that he definitely gets his money back. Now, the leader here is reporting that investors could vote, which means that if this thing is not dealt with in terms of Usain Bolt getting back his money and some light is not shed on what is happening, I think that the investors will go, which they can go. Who wants them? Economist warns sprint legends outcry over SSL fraud could deter foreign investment in Jamaica. Attorney rebuffs reports that the institution only received a portion of Bolt's multi-million-dollar investment. Right, that's what they're saying. The controversy surrounding the defrauding of Sprint great Usain Bolt and hundreds of other clients of Stocks and Securities Limited, SSL, could trigger a reduction in foreign investments in Jamaica if aspects of the case draw international eyes, economist Keenan Falconer believes. Bolt was among 200 SSL clients impacted by the US $30 million fraud, authorities disclosed. The track and field legend, through his holding company, Welgen Limited, reportedly invested $6.2 million in SSL. So it was $6.2 million. Falconer said Bolt has been more than reasonably restrained in his public commentary on the matter, acknowledging loyalty to Jamaica. He loves his Jamaica. Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica land we love, right? Because he loves the country of his birth. But does the country of his birth love him? That is the question that Usain Bolt has to ask and to answer. I don't think he liked the answer, but at least ask the question and begin to think, begin to ruminate, as it were, on that question. So we have spoken about the brutality of the ruling elites, and that is how they rule, whether they're in Jamaica or they're in the United States. In fact, they rule together. You think that, when the United States went down there and got, what's his name? Did us out of the country, that the ruling elites were, they were a part of it. They're part of that sort of venture. Because at the end of the day, they don't suffer. You are the ones who suffer. And they laugh at you, right? Because you're slaves. The same thing happens in North America. The war is not about protecting the American shore. It's not about that. And some of you with your narrow brains and your little brains, it's so that you have been schooled, but you have not been educated. You think that the military in America is to safeguard the Americans, to safeguard you. And the sad thing, you have Jamaicans who live in the United States who believe that nonsense. Oh, the United States has a wonderful and a beautiful military, a powerful military. The Russians can't attack Americans because they're powerful. And you live in under that powerful military structure, environment. Right? And you think you're safe. And you think the military is going to defend you. And what happens when they kill you? And your family. But this is what the world we're living in. And I'm just here to educate as much as I can. But I can't change the world. God, in the form of Christ, was in the world. And he sought as much as he could to sound the alarm and to blow the trumpet. Right? And the people would not listen to him. In fact, they wound up killing him because they did not like the message that he was bearing. And whether you will hear or forbear, I will have to declare this message to you to let you know that Jamaica is a sinking ship in which the elites, the Jamaican ruling class, they have already ordered their ship or boat that they have to get on. Just like you saw what happened to the Titanic and the important people who jumped the ship and were saved while hundreds of thousands of lives were lost. So you've got to know if you're going to still believe in what you call, believe all you want, and I'm sure do all the good you can to build Jamaica, but don't put your faith in a sinking ship, because that ship of Jamaica is sinking. I think you should put your faith in God, because that is the empire that will never, never sink. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Remember to like the videos so the videos can be shared with as many people on a platform. See you in another one. Ciao.